When the soul begins to rise, it does not come wrapped in gold, nor does it whisper sweet promises. It often arrives in silence and sometimes in suffering. People think that awakening is supposed to feel light, like floating above the world. But in truth, when the soul starts to rise, it shakes everything that is false within you. It does not bring peace first, it brings clarity. And clarity, especially when you've lived in illusion, can be sharp. It can hurt. Many times, people feel overwhelmed, anxious, or lost, and they think they've gone off their path. They believe that something is wrong with them. But what if I told you that these feelings are not signs of collapse? They are signs of emergence. Like the earth that trembles before a seed breaks through the soil, your soul stirs before it surfaces. That inner storm is not your enemy. It is the preparation. It is the cleansing. We have been taught to avoid discomfort, to numb it, escape it, silence it. But the soul has no interest in your comfort. It seeks only truth. So when it begins to rise, it confronts everything within you that is not in alignment. It brings to the surface old wounds you thought were buried. It brings memories you tried to forget. It brings feelings that don't fit the mask you've been wearing. This is not punishment, it is purification. If you look at nature, it never rushes its process. Storms come not to destroy the earth, but to nourish it. Rain falls not to drown, but to cleanse. Trees shed their leaves not because they are dying, but because they are making space for new life. The same is true for your inner world. The sadness, the restlessness, the anger, they are not final states. They are signals, they are messengers. They say, something inside you is shifting. Pay attention. The soul is not rising to impress the world or to chase achievement. It is rising to remember who you are beneath all the noise. And this is why the first sign is often pain. Not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are finally doing something real. You are stepping away from the roles you were told to play. You are unlearning what it means to be acceptable, and starting to discover what it means to be authentic. But how do we move through this phase? How do we overcome the heaviness, the doubt, the fear? First, stop resisting it. The moment you label your feelings as wrong, you build a wall between yourself and your transformation. Allow yourself to feel fully. Be present with your discomfort without trying to fix it. If a wave comes, don't fight it, breathe and let it carry you. It will take you somewhere deeper. Second, observe the mind without becoming it. Thoughts will try to define you. They will say, you are broken, you are lost, you are weak. But the one who hears these thoughts is not broken. The observer in you, the silent witness, that part is untouched. Stay there. Watch your thoughts pass like clouds, and you will realize that the sky behind them has never changed. Third, do not isolate your journey. Solitude is important, but not disconnection. Speak with those who walk a similar path. Read words that stir your soul. Listen to silence, but also listen to wisdom. The rising of the soul is not a solo act. It is part of something greater, something timeless. When you hear someone speak your truth, it reminds you that you are not alone. And finally, be patient. The soul does not rise on your schedule. It does not move according to the clock. It moves according to need. Sometimes it will rise slowly, like the sun lifting over the mountains. Sometimes it will rise suddenly, like fire catching dry wood. Either way, trust the timing. Trust that even in your darkest hour, something within you is still moving toward the light. There is nothing wrong with you for feeling lost. There is nothing broken in you for being afraid. These are not failures, they are thresholds. And the fact that you feel them deeply, intensely, means that your soul is very much alive. It is not sleeping anymore, stretching on the edge of the grass, half, full, and it is asking you to rise with it. This is not the end. This is the beginning. Growth is rarely gentle. It's not soft music or peaceful skies. Most of the time, growth feels like being stretched, pulled, and challenged. It feels like discomfort, not because something is wrong, but because something within you is expanding. When the soul begins to rise, it does not ask for permission. It pushes through the boundaries you've set for yourself. And with that push comes friction. You feel it in your heart, in your mind, in your body. This is not something to fear. This is how transformation begins. We live in a world that worships ease and convenience. Everything must be fast, painless, and polished. But the soul doesn't operate like that. The soul isn't in a hurry. It moves through seasons, not seconds. And when it rises, it brings with it everything you've been avoiding. That tension you feel, that restlessness, that sense that you can't pretend anymore. That's your soul stretching. It's outgrowing the small stories you've told yourself. It's making space for something greater to emerge. When your soul stretches, it challenges your attachments. Suddenly, what used to satisfy you no longer does. The habits, the distractions, the people you used to cling to, they feel heavy. Not because they are bad, but because you are not the same. You start to crave silence over noise, truth over comfort, depth over surface. And that shift can feel lonely. It can feel confusing, but it is necessary. It's like a snake shedding its skin. The old layer is tight, constricting. It must be released, even if the process is uncomfortable. You are not meant to fit into who you were yesterday. You are not meant to stay small just because it's familiar. The discomfort is the signal that your soul is reaching for more. More awareness, more truth, more life. But here is something most people miss. Discomfort is not the enemy. Discomfort is the doorway. When you feel that internal tension, you are standing on the edge of a threshold. You can choose to retreat into the known, or you can step into the unknown and allow yourself to become who you truly are. That choice is not easy, but the pain of remaining stuck is far greater than the pain of growth. You begin to notice that you can no longer betray yourself just to keep the peace. You can't keep smiling when your heart is tired. You can't keep pretending when your soul is calling. And this is where the real stretch happens, not in your body, but in your integrity. You begin to align your outer life with your inner truth. And it shakes everything. Relationships shift, priorities shift, even your dreams may shift. But all of this is part of the soul's rising. So how do you move through this stretching without breaking? The first step is to stop running. Sit with the tension. Let it teach you. Let it show you what you've been suppressing. Don't rush to fix it, label it, or escape it. Just be with it. Like a river carving a path through rock, the discomfort is shaping you, deepening you. Trust that process. The second step is to listen, not to the noise of the world, but to the whisper inside. There is always a voice within you that knows. It may be quiet, but it's steady. It says, "This is not the end. This is the passage." You are not falling apart. You are falling into alignment. That's a very different thing. The third step is compassion. Be kind to yourself. You are doing something courageous. You are evolving. You are letting go of what no longer fits. That takes more strength than clinging. It takes humility. It takes heart. And sometimes it takes tears. That's okay. The soul doesn't rise in perfect form. It rises through the breaking, the rebuilding, the remembering, and finally, honor the stretch. Don't see it as a burden. See it as an invitation. You are being invited to step into the fullness of who you are. Not the version shaped by fear, but the version shaped by truth. That version doesn't need to prove itself. It doesn't need approval. It just needs space to be. So when you feel that inner stretch, when life feels too small, too loud, too shallow, don't panic. Don't numb it, stand in it, feel it fully, because that is the moment your soul is breathing deeper, reaching further, and rising higher than ever before. And all you have to do is not turn away. There comes a moment on the inner path when the outer noise starts to lose its power over you. The endless distractions, the opinions of others, the pressure to always be doing none of it seems to satisfy anymore. Instead, you start to notice something deeper calling you, something quieter. At first, it feels like a subtle pull toward solitude, toward stepping away. And that's when silence begins to show itself not as emptiness, but as presence. We've been taught to fear silence, to fill every moment with activity, with sound, with stimulation. If we're not busy, we feel we're wasting time. If we're not surrounded by voices, we feel lonely. But that's only because we haven't yet learned to listen to what silence is really offering. When the soul begins to rise, silence becomes not an escape, but a companion. It becomes the space where truth can finally be heard. In the beginning, sitting in silence can feel like facing a mirror with no place to hide. All the thoughts you've avoided, the emotions you've pushed away, the questions you don't want to answer, they all surface. And yes, that can be uncomfortable, but it's also sacred, because for the first time you are not running. You are not distracting, you are simply being, and in that being, something shifts. You begin to realize that silence is not empty. It is full of clarity, full of awareness. Within the stillness, the soul speaks, not in words, but in understanding. You don't need to explain it to anyone. You just feel it, like standing at the edge of a quiet lake and seeing your reflection clearly for the first time without distortion. You start to recognize who you really are beneath all the roles and responsibilities. People ask, but don't you get lonely? No, because true loneliness is not being without people. It's being disconnected from yourself. And once you begin to meet yourself in silence, you are never truly alone again. You carry your presence with you. You carry your awareness, and that is more fulfilling than 1,000 empty conversations. This is not about isolating yourself from the world. It's not about escaping into silence forever. It's about integrating silence into your life, so that you no longer seek answers outside of yourself that have always lived within. When the noise becomes too loud, you retreat inward not to escape, but to remember. And from that remembrance, you return to the world more whole. Silence teaches you patience. It teaches you how to listen deeply, not just to others, but to life itself. It teaches you to stop reacting and start responding. You begin to see that most of the chaos outside is just a reflection of the chaos inside. And when the inner storm settles, so does the world around you. In silence, time slows down. You are no longer rushing from one thing to the next. You are no longer lost in your thoughts about the past or anxious about the future. You are simply here. Now, and that now is alive, it breathes, it teaches, it heals. The present moment becomes a sanctuary, not because it is perfect, but because you are fully awake within it. And then something beautiful happens. You stop needing validation. You stop craving attention. You stop trying to prove yourself. Because in the silence, you've already seen yourself. You've met the part of you that doesn't change with the seasons of life. The part that watches everything come and go, yet remains still. That presence becomes your anchor. That presence becomes your peace. This is where inner strength is born, not in the noise of ambition or the spotlight of success, but in the quiet knowing of your own essence. You begin to trust your intuition more. You begin to make choices that reflect your soul, not your ego. You no longer act from fear, but from clarity. And this clarity, born from silence, changes everything. It doesn't mean life becomes easy. Challenges still come. Pain still visits. But you're no longer tossed by every wave. You sit in the middle of the storm with a quiet heart, knowing that nothing outside can shake what's steady within. So when life gets loud, when you feel pulled in 100 directions, return to the stillness. Let silence hold you. Let it teach you, let it remind you that the soul doesn't shout. It whispers. And if you're willing to listen, it will guide you home. Everything you've been searching for begins in that quiet space within. One of the clearest signs that your soul is rising is when you start choosing truth over comfort, not once, not by accident, but as a way of living. And let me tell you, this choice doesn't come with applause. It often comes with silence, sometimes resistance, sometimes loss, because truth doesn't conform to convenience. It doesn't care if it fits the life you've built. It only cares if it sets you free. There comes a moment when the lies you've been telling yourself begin to taste bitter. Not just the big ones, but the subtle ones. The little compromises you make each day just to keep things smooth. The way you smile when your spirit is tired. The way you say yes when everything inside you is saying no. The way you stay when your soul is already halfway gone. And in that moment, something shifts. You can feel the gap widening between the life you're living and the life your soul is asking for. This is not about blame, it's not about guilt, it's about awakening. The soul begins to rise the moment you stop ignoring that inner voice, the one that's been whispering all along. At first, it may come as a quiet discomfort, a strange feeling that you don't belong in places that once felt familiar. You look around and wonder, why am I here? What am I doing? That's not confusion. That's clarity starting to break through the illusion. Choosing truth means letting go of pretending. And that's not easy in a world built on performance. We're taught to be agreeable, to keep things light, to avoid confrontation. But your soul doesn't rise for approval. It rises for alignment. And alignment sometimes demands you walk away from what's easy, what's known, what's expected. It's not dramatic. It's not reckless. It's not about rejecting everything. It's about looking at yourself honestly and asking, is this mine, or did I accept it just because I was afraid to be without it? That question alone can change your life. Because when you begin to live in truth, you stop clinging to what no longer serves you. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. You begin to realize that keeping the peace outside at the cost of your inner peace is too high a price. People will notice the change, some will admire it, others won't understand it. You might be called difficult, distant, too serious. But you'll also feel lighter. Because the weight of pretending is heavy, and the moment you put it down, you begin to breathe differently. You begin to walk differently. You begin to live differently. This choice, truth over comfort, doesn't always feel good right away. Sometimes it feels like standing alone in a room that used to be full. Sometimes it means saying goodbye to relationships, jobs, or versions of yourself that once gave you identity. But what you gain in return is worth more than all of it combined. You gain your own presence. You gain integrity. You gain peace, not the peace of avoidance, but the peace that comes from being whole. The process of choosing truth also teaches you humility. Because truth is not always heroic. Sometimes the truth is, I am tired, I don't know, I need help, I was wrong. These truths don't make you weak. They make you honest. And honesty creates space for something real to grow. Without truth, all connection is limited. With truth, even silence can be deeply intimate. You'll also begin to see how often we wear masks just to survive. And you'll stop judging others for it. Because when you know how hard it is to live in truth, you have more compassion for those still hiding. You don't need to fix them. You just need to be an example of what's possible when you stop hiding from yourself. This is how your soul rises, not through noise, not through appearance, but through a quiet return to what's real. It rises when you look yourself in the mirror and stop negotiating with your heart. When you say, I may lose what I once thought I needed, but I refuse to lose myself. And as you walk this path, something incredible happens. The truth that once felt heavy starts to feel like freedom. The discomfort that once made you doubt yourself starts to feel like direction. And the space you create by letting go of the false is filled with something sacred: peace, presence, and purpose. You'll no longer need to chase what's not meant for you. You'll no longer fear being misunderstood, because you'll know that the truth is not something you carry, it's something you become. And when you become it, there is nothing more to prove.